Hello, welcome to another episode of the League One Show live, brought to you by Over the Bar. Join me again this week is friend of the site and resident Ipswich fan, Ben. So we'll be talking a lot about Ipswich this week, but as always, we'll be recapping all the latest League One scores and news. And also with us being live on deadline day, we'll take a look at some of the deals that have been done already and any that are yet to go over the line. I believe Papa John games are still kicking off around this time as well, so if there's any scores and note that crop up, we'll let you know as we go as well. But just to look back at the scores from the weekend then. So we had a Friday night game this week. It was Rochdale 1, Colchester 1. Moved to Friday night to coincide with Rochdale's 100-year anniversary of Football League membership. Moving on to the Saturday games, we had a lunchtime kick-off in League One. Rotherham 2, Doncaster 0, that finished. Cambridge 1, Bolton 0. Charlton 2, Crewe 0. Ipswich 2, Wimbledon 2. MK Dons 2, Accrington 0. Morecambe 1, Sheffield Wednesday 0, probably the shock result of the day in the league. Oxford 3, Lincoln 1. Plymouth 1, Fleetwood 1. Shrewsbury 2, Gillingham 1. Sunderland 3, Wycombe 1. And Wigan beating Portsmouth 1-0 in the final game of the day there. But yeah, we'll come straight to you, Ben, on this one, with you being our Ipswich go-to. Not been the best of starts considering Ipswich are on 17 or 18 signings now for the summer. Currently fourth bottom, 5 games played, only 3 points. So what's been the issue so far with Ipswich, given what's gone on over the summer?
Well, we've signed too many players, really, and too many players in the same position. And I think many Ipswich fans can agree on that we've signed far too many players and far too many players of a similar type. We need a defensive midfielder, yet we haven't had one come through the door. And the one goalkeeper we did sign hasn't really impressed Paul Cook. So ultimately, we've gone out and signed another goalkeeper in Christian Walton. But yeah, I mean, when you look at it on paper, we have a whole lot of new players who are perfectly capable of getting us promoted. Whole load of very talented players and very talented young individuals like Raheem Harper, Bursant Salida, who recently came in, and Edwards as well. But yeah, I mean, all of these players are very, very similar there. And ultimately, a lot of these new players won't like sitting on the bench. So yeah, I mean, it's all about getting them gelled in. But Ipswich fans aren't very patient. You can't really blame them, really, after what they've been through in the last couple of years. But fingers crossed, things will come better.
Yeah, I think, is it 17 or 18 deals now? I know
19.
19 now, Jesus.
Yeah.
But bear in mind, the Matchday squad is only of 18 players, so not every new signing is going to make the Matchday squad. On top of that, you still retain players from last season. So I think Paul Cook has got a huge job in his hands in keeping players happy from last season that might have been promised game time this year if they stuck around. New signings will have come to the club under the provision they were going to get game time as well. So it's definitely a fine balancing act for Paul Cook. So do you think that could ultimately be Ipswich's demise this season, the fact that too many players are in and not being able to keep them all happy at one time?
Yeah, my main worry is the goalkeeping situation. And it always seems to be a problem at Ipswich where we get too many good goalkeepers who are ultimately battling it out. But Hiladkley, he's been a bit unlucky, really, because, like he's been new to the squad, of course. His communication has been decent in the back line. But ultimately, Paul Cook hasn't been very interested in him. He has made a few claggers, nothing too bad, nothing too severe, but he has made a few mistakes. But ultimately, I think Paul Cook's been too quick to judge, really. He's brought in Christian Walton, so Hiladkley is now second choice. Thomas Holy's now third choice. So ultimately, we're now stockpiling players. And it's funny, really, because Paul Cook's main aim was to get rid of the stockpiling and to get rid of the quote-unquote dead wood and to bring in new players. But ultimately, it seems as though we're doing this with a whole load of new players now. So, again, there are a bunch of players from different positions who might not get game time. Sone Aluko looks to be one of them. Now that we've brought young players in his position, who knows where he's going to be? He was probably told that he was going to get first-team football. But yeah, I mean, you can probably look all around the park, apart from the midfield, and just call out a whole load of players who were promised game time, but ultimately could be potentially sitting on the bench.
Yeah, I kind of feel bad for Lockie. Very, really solid keeper when he was at Salford. Obviously, he was a standout performer at Salford side and earned his move to League One. And I was really looking forward to see how he gone. I know, like I said, he's had a few questionable displays early doors, but I think that's part and parcel of being a keeper at a new club. When you're getting to know your new defence in front of you, there is a bedding in period. I think the goalkeeper's one of the toughest positions to come in when you're new to a club. I think, like I said, Paul Cook's probably been a bit hasty there and pulled the trigger a little bit too much, too early. But Walton is a good keeper. But like I said, I don't think it was a necessary signing to make him. I think you were saying when we were speaking privately yesterday, Ben, that Paul Cook seems to have like a bit of an addiction now to signing players. So he seems to have a bit of a buzz for signing players. So yeah, that's an accurate statement. He's just getting players in for the love of the chase of getting a signature.
Yeah, Paul Cook did actually say during a press conference that he loved signing players, and that's pretty obvious at the moment because when you look at our bench, we also have the likes of Louis Barry. Aston Villa are going to want Louis Barry sat on the bench every week. We have the likes of Tom Carroll, who knows whether he's going to get in over the likes of Harper and Evans. It's all a very weird situation, really, because, we've got a whole load of players who are more than capable of playing in the Championship. As we have money, as the American owners have given us a lot of money, we can simply throw the money at these players. But in my opinion, it isn't really as simple as that. I reckon we should have bought in a couple of new players and embedded them I don't know what the word is, but put them together with the old players just to create something and create a new building block. But ultimately, I think it's kind of been rushed, Paul Cook's transfer plans has. And he has brought in a few too many new players, and he did say, as I just said earlier, that he does love signing players, and I mean it has been pretty obvious during this transfer window.
Yeah, I think the Ipswich social media team have just been begging for you to at least hit 17 signs. So could use that picture of Ed Sheeran pausing on your pitch again. But yeah, I think they were crying out for that 17 sign once you got to 16. Gary Jones coming in the comment, obviously fellow Tractor Boys fan. But I was going to kind of touch on this, so kind of turning on to your fortunes on the pitch, Ben. So Gary says, please tell me things will turn around soon. We've been fighting at the top. All my optimism for our chances season have been drained these past few weeks. And yeah, I can kind of see where you're coming from, Gary. When you look at the fixtures, so you've had that home draw with Morecambe, and away defeats at Burton and Cheltenham, and home draws against Wimbledon and MK Dons. So you've not had the most difficult starts, but in terms of your optimism, Ben, is yours still there, or has there been a bit of reality check the last couple of weeks?
I think I said during the first show that we did that I don't think we're going to get promoted. I think we're going to have almost like a honeymoon season, if that's even the right way to put it, under Paul Cook, where we could struggle. But look, we're playing Bolton next. Bolton lost to Cambridge, and they had a very suspect performance. I thought Wes Burns played very, very well against AFC Wimbledon. He really impressed me. So, we have every reason to be optimistic, really. We do have players who are performing well at the moment. Once Edmondson comes back into defence, maybe we'll be a bit more solid. So, yeah, we do have every reason to be optimistic. And when you look at our run-in, we're playing Bolton, Lincoln, who have been struggling lately, Lincoln have, and Sheffield Wednesday. So, a few tough challenges, actually, but doable challenges. So, hopefully, we'll get a few points from those games.
Yeah, it's better to get momentum started early doors into it rather than continuously playing catch up. I think we saw quite a few teams last season. I think the prime example of that was Oxford. Had that horrendous start and playing catch up the whole season. Ultimately, it did cost them in the end in terms of giving themselves a lot to do, and they just seemed to run out of steam when it mattered most. Obviously, Ipswich had probably got a much bigger squad to be able to rotate this year, but obviously you don't be doing that constantly. Right, we'll move on to the rest of the division. So, in terms of the questions, I know we've had one coming on Sunderland, so I won't touch on Sunderland until later on in the show. But Sheffield Wednesday had their first defeat of the league season at the weekend, going down to a 1-0 away loss at Morecambe, a result not many people saw coming. What have you made of the starts of both sides, Ben, so far?
Yeah, both sides have been okay, actually. I mean, I was shocked that Sheffield United Sheffield Wednesday, my apologies, lost to Morecambe because they actually played some very good football out there. And I think Sheffield Wednesday have actually played some very, very good football so far in League One. So, yeah, it was a real shock that they actually lost. But look, they're second in the league. I reckon Sheffield Wednesday will probably get promoted this season. Every team has their off day. But, yeah, Morecambe really needed that win. You know, they've had a mixed start to the season, or if you spin it the other way, a very good start to the season considering how they are underdogs. But yeah, Sheffield Wednesday, I reckon they'll get promoted. Morecambe, they're 14th at the moment, which isn't too bad. I reckon they can maybe survive us. They're a very good young team. But yeah, I mean, let's talk about AFC Wimbledon versus Morecambe. No, Sheffield Wednesday versus Morecambe, sorry, because, you know, that was a real upset. And yeah, Sheffield Wednesday should have won, but yeah, it didn't happen. Morecambe upset them, and it was, a huge surprise.
Yeah, when you look at the stats, it was a game that Sheffield Wednesday dominated. So double the amount, 6-7% possession to Morecambe's 33, double the attempts, so 13 to Morecambe's 6. But ultimately, it's that goal stat counts the most into it in Morecambe, but their only shot on target came away with the 3 points. But like I said, Morecambe, I think they'll be fine this year. They seem to have shown enough early doors. And I think if you'd have offered Morecambe fans that position after their opening 5 games, they've bitten your hand off for it. So yeah, fair play to Morecambe for the start they've made. Sheffield Wednesday, I think they were a team a lot of people had the doubts about. 10 points, then their opening 5 games. So have you been impressed with how quickly they've acclimatised to League One following that relegation?
Yeah, I kind of have. And just to put it out there, I think they're a very, very good team. You know, they have Peacock fouling goal, who's a very good goalkeeper. He should really be in the championship. I think they've been playing well lately. And again, teams do have their off days. Teams will lose inevitably throughout the season. And again, you know, when you look at their squad, I can look at the likes of Dominic Iorfa, Lee Gregory, Barry Bannon, who should have scored from a corner against Morecambe. You know, like these are quality players who are probably good enough for the championship. So, you know, should Sheffield Wednesday stay consistent, and should their manager simply stick to the same formation and to the same system that they've been playing as of late, which is a 4-2-3-1, then I'm sure that Darren Moore could get them promoted. But yeah, you know, nothing really for Sheffield Wednesday fans to worry about. These losses do happen. They did dominate the game. They were simply unlucky to really lose the game. And Morecambe's goalkeeper, Andreasen, simply had a worldie as well. He had a very good game in goal.
Yeah, without being so disrespectful to Morecambe, it was probably one of their biggest games of the season in terms of probably one of the biggest crowds they'd have in terms of away following. That's obviously given the players a lift. I don't want to refer to it as a cup final, but it'd be definitely one of their bigger games of the season. And just a couple of players, like you've just rattled off a few of the names there, but when you look at the rest of that squad, so they've signed Saido Berahino today, obviously. It doesn't seem that long ago since he was being talked about as one of the next big things in English football when he broke through at West Brom. Massimo Luongo, so he had a great spell when he was at Swindon at this level. So yeah, the Sam Hutchinson, Barry Banley as well you've touched on. So they've got a wealth of experience and talent, and they'll be fine. Top 6 at a minimum for them this year. Oxford, another team that have started the season incredibly well. 10 points in their opening 5 games. Currently season in 3rd place after last year's playoff heartache again. Do you think Oxford could go one better this year and finally get promoted after a couple of near misses given the start they've made?
Yeah, I thought Oxford played well against Lincoln, but I didn't think they played particularly good football. You know, like they're a good team, and I reckon they're a team perfectly capable of getting promoted with the way they are playing. But again, you know, like there's always that question with Oxford: are they consistent enough? And in my opinion, from what I've seen at the moment, I know they've won their last couple of games. They've only lost once so far, but I don't think they're consistent enough. But who knows? They played very well, though, against Lincoln. James Henry scored a hat-trick, a very good hat-trick as well. He really impressed me out there. But yeah, I mean, who knows? If James Henry carries on playing the way like he has been, then who knows? Maybe they could get promoted. They're a good team. They do have some very good players in their squad, Oxford have. And yeah, if you look at some of their players, these are players who can maybe also get promoted. But yeah, I mean, we need the consistency from this Oxford side before we get more excited.
Yeah, a good point about the squad they made about the squad there. It is very talented, but when you look at the numbers they've got, it's not the biggest of squads, so they'll be relying on having a bit of luck in terms of keeping the injuries to a minimum this year. But yeah, I think they'll be fine. I think they'll be top six again after they've got the experience now to probably get it over the line anyway. There. So I think last week we did touch on Wigan and Portsmouth quite a bit, and we did discuss Wycombe. So I want to kind of look at some of the teams that are punching just outside the top six at the minute. I know we're still very much early days, only 5 games of a 46 game season. Yeah, there's a few teams that we don't really talk about that much that have had really good starts. Burton, given the heroics Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank pulled off last year, again, they've started really well. 10 points in their opening 5 games. They won their opening 3, but they've had a bit of a wobble, drawing with Cheltenham and losing away to Cambridge the last 2 games, the 2 newly promoted sides from League Two. Have you made the start? Well, what have you made to the start that Burton have done so far?
Yeah, I really like this Burton team, and I like the likes of Akins. He's a very good player. I think he's been very consistent for this Burton side. But yeah, simply they've impressed me. I like their players, I like their squad. I like Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank. I think he's a very good manager at this level. And honestly, I'm excited with their prospects. I reckon they could easily surprise quite a few people this season should they carry on their good form. They haven't got the best squad in quality, and I don't mean that as an insult. They've got a team full of underdogs, a team full of players who are more than willing to listen to their manager and more than willing to upset a couple of teams. So yeah, the sky is the limit for Burton. As long as they keep hold of Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank, I reckon they'll be fine. And as I said, I reckon they could easily go on and upset a few pundits.
Yeah, I think with Burton, I think we kind of mentioned it quite a lot last season that Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank and Burton are a match made in heaven. He performed miracles their first time around. He's doing the same again. And Burton could be dark horse to the top 6 this year if he can keep everybody fit and keep that momentum going. They're well within having a sniff at the top 6. Cambridge, so they've had a really good start. So 8 points in their opening 5 games. Some impressive results in there as well. Beating Bolton at the weekend. They battered Burton in the last home game before that. So in terms of Cambridge, have you been impressed with the adjustment they've made to League One so far after League Two's promotion?
Yeah, I was very impressed with their performance against Bolton. I thought they were very compact. I thought defensively they were incredible. They're a very good defensive side as well. And simply, I've just been incredibly impressed with them. I think their manager, Mark Bonner, has gotten them playing very good football. But look, this is a very young squad, and I think young squads are very good in League One because it's a good level for these players to learn, and it's a very good level for these players to get experience and to show off what they can really be. So yeah, I mean, Cambridge, as long as they keep on with their momentum from last season, I reckon they could go on to have a very decent season. Maybe not promotion because I don't think they're quite at that level yet. But should they get the likes of Connor Masterson into the squad playing well and Paul Digby, he's a very good midfielder, then I reckon they could be in for a very exciting season.
Yeah, I was quite worried about Cambridge early doors. I thought they might have struggled after losing top scorer Paul Mullen to Wrexham over the summer, but they seem to have adjusted really well. 7 goals in their opening 5 games, only conceded 4, so they're looking relatively solid so far. I think of all the promoted sides, I think they were probably the best equipped, along with Bolton, to have a steady season. So quite looking forward to see how they push on as the season progresses. One team I think a lot of people came into pre-season had a lot of high hopes for, but then Russell Martin ended up leaving the MK Dons for Swansea, I think, in the week or 2 leading up to the season. And I think a lot of people started to slowly adjust their opinions on how they're doing. But they've had a solid start, currently find themselves 11th in the league, similar to Cambridge, 8 points in 5 games. So how have you made, what have you made of the start that Lee Mann's made so far to his life at MK Dons after stepping in just before the season starts?
Yeah, I thought the MK Dons played some very good football last time out against Accrington. I thought they were a very impressive team. And yeah, their performances on the pitch have been absolutely superb so far. They've had a very promising start under head coach Liam Manning. And they do have some very good players who are probably too good for this level, such as Isa, Parrott, who's on loan from Spurs. And this is a squad that could potentially upset a few teams. So yeah, I mean, I reckon they've started very well. I like their squad because I think they're a very young, promising squad, a squad full of potential. And with this does come rewards, and I reckon their rewards could hopefully be either a top half finish or maybe if they push for it, playoffs.
Yeah, I think MK on some sides. I think a lot of people, again, similar to Burn, dark horse for the top six. I think it'll take a lot of fortune for them to end up in the top six, but never say never with League One. There's always that one or even two surprise sides that are in the mix for promotion. I think MK Dons could definitely be one of those that are well within the mix there. We'll take a look at teams that haven't started as well, so focusing more on the bottom half of the table. One team that I've wanted to have a look at, I didn't get time to touch on last week, but Gillingham, team that was well within playoff contention at the back end of last season. Not starting off so great at this present time, so 5 games gone, 5 points on the board. A very disappointing 2-1 defeat away at Shrewsbury at the weekend. So what have you made of the Gill start to season, given the way they ended last season?
Yeah, look, I thought they were very unlucky to lose against Shrewsbury because I think it was Tom Bloxham who scored that fantastic bicycle kick. You know, that is a goal that you can't really save, a goal that the goalkeeper can't really see coming. So I thought Gillingham were very unlucky. They were very silly to get the red card. You saw the fight in the box, manager's box, and yeah, it all got a bit out of hand really. But yeah, Gillingham have been very unlucky really. Again, I think Gillingham are a decent squad. I don't think they're playoff contenders. I reckon they're a solid mid-table team because, again, they do have some good players. Yeah, some players who are solid League One players as well. But yeah, their start has been quite disappointing. I don't know whether I should be surprised by it or not. As Steve Evans has, in my opinion, been a bang average manager. He's done well at Gillingham, don't get me wrong. But I reckon he's a manager who can't really take them beyond that. I don't really think he has that on his CV. But yeah, Gillingham, I don't think they'll get relegated. I'd be very, very surprised if they got relegated because, they had the likes of Carl Dempsey and Jamie Cummings in goal. Like players who are superb, players who have been there and done that, who have played in the Championship in the past. Like they're more than capable of, surviving and staying, hopefully, in mid-table.
Yeah, they've done some decent business over the summer. Reece Bennett coming from Peterborough, ex-Rochdale player. He was a player that kind of very inconsistent when he was at Dale. And I did rate him, but I think he was one of those that I wasn't sad when he left. But fair play to him, he's really kicked on since spells at Mansfield, Peterborough, and now at Gillingham. So can't knock him there. And I've just noticed, I think it kind of snuck under the radar, former Dale youth player, Daniel Adshead, on Gillingham from Norwich after we sold him to Norwich a couple of years back. So hopefully I'll be following Gillingham's results with a bit of interest there to see how young Adshead gets on there. But they've retained some of the quality from last season. So Carl Dempsey, like I was saying previously, Johnny Kindale always causes defensive problems at this level. And Vidane Oliver had very strong performances last year. So yeah, I think Gillingham will be fine. I think they'll definitely be top half. But I think they're probably carrying a little bit light in terms of numbers to be able to have a serious top six crack this season, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. Fleetwood are another team. I think both of us predicted a very poor season for Fleetwood this season, so they've had a bit of a mixed start. So they got their first win of the season last week against Cheltenham and followed that up with a decent point away at Plymouth. Do you think Fleetwood can kick on from there? Or do you think they're a team that are going to be in the mire for most of the season?
Yeah, I reckon they're going to be at the bottom for most of the season. I thought Fleetwood were very, very lucky to get that point away from Plymouth. Ryan Hardy scored a very, very good goal in the opening couple of minutes. But ultimately, Fleetwood scored against the run of play. And again, they were incredibly suspect defensively. With their defensive performances, I don't think they can really muster up a decent season this year. And again, I reckon improvements do need to be made in the squad and with the team. But look, I mean, we've only just started the season. We still have one more transfer window left. So hopefully they do make a few new signings there and surprise everybody. But yeah, from what I saw against Plymouth, I thought they were incredibly suspect and were almost quite lucky to come away with the point. But it is worth bringing up one thing which would almost put doubters or like make more people doubt them. Camps, he scored for them on the 34th minute. That was his first goal of the season, and he's been in an incredibly bad patch of form. So, that almost dampens your expectations of them because, they haven't got many goal scorers in their team as well.
Yeah, and obviously with Callum Camps being an ex-Dale man, I know a lot about him, and it kind of sums his time up at Rochdale, very inconsistent and drifting in and out of form. And I think he is key to Fleetwood's chances of survival this year. They really do need him to put a good run of form, chip in with the assists and a few goals. But yeah, it's probably the weakest Fleetwood have been on paper since he came into the division. So I'm not holding out much hope for them this season. Just before we move on to some of the deadline dealings, another side that have kind of really struggled compared to how they're doing last season's Crewe. Only 1 point from their opening 5 games. So what have you made of Crewe so far? Because a lot of people were expecting them to kick on a bit this year.
I felt bad for Crewe against Charlton. I thought Crewe played some very good football and they made some very decent passages of play. Again, they're a young team. They can play good football. And again, they are full of talent. But ultimately, Charlton Athletic won. And I think I've said this quite a few times. It's all about being clinical up front. And Crewe weren't clinical at all. They were snatching at chances, taking on half chances when they didn't really have the need to. And ultimately, that did almost cost them. But I think many of these mistakes are almost easily, coached out of these players. If they're coached well, if they're managed well, then I reckon they could easily survive this season. Because again, they are a good team. They did have a good season last year. So fingers crossed they don't get relegated. Because honestly, I still like them. I still think they're a superb team. And I think they're a team with a very bright future.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have a soft spot for Crewe after some of the youth products they've produced over the years, and they always seem to go about things the right way. And yeah, you can't really knock them for that. And looking at another player, they have Crewe are synonymous with being a bit of a selling club, and that was happened again this summer, losing Charlie Kirk. They'll be struggling to replace him as the season goes on. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see on Crewe, and they'll be looking to get off the mark very, very soon. So that's pretty much a recap of what's gone on in League One so far. We'll take a look at some of the big deals that are going on deadline day for some of the players that come into League One. So we'll talk about some of the ones that have happened today, really, Ben. So we've had Lincoln sign Jamie Robson from Dundee for undisclosed fee. Do you think Lincoln is a defense, like their defence scenario they really need to show up, and is it an astute sign bringing on another defender?
Yeah, Jamie Robson is a very good player. 23-year-old that plays at left back. He made 131 appearances at Dundee, which is no mean feat, really, because Dundee United are a decent team. So, yeah, he is a very good signing, and hopefully he can make them more solid. But I think what Lincoln are really going for, it would be, more young players who can probably get up and down the flanks. And I reckon Jamie Robson is a perfect example of that type of player. So, yeah, I reckon he'll be a hit at Lincoln, and hopefully he goes on to have a decent season because he's still young and he can still develop quite well. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think Lincoln are always one side. I think they will rely on a strong defence. I think that's something they really need to work on this year and try and nick some wins this year, because I think they might struggle after the success of last season. They've lost a lot of key players. So I think having a solid defensive line can really build on that from there. Arguably two of the big transfers that are still yet to go through as of the show being recorded. Sunderland look out going to get Bayern Munich duo Ron Thorpe Hoffman and Leon Duchaku. As a double loan signing from the German champions. So Hoffman is goalkeeper, yet to feature for Bayern's first team, and the Chaku is a 20-year-old striker, and he's made 2 appearances for the Bayern senior side so far, which is no mean feat really when you look at the array of talent that Bayern Munich possess. But so we might not know much about these players, Ben, but do you think bringing players the calibre of like Bayern Munich, even their younger players, that shows a big statement of intent for Sunderland?
Now, first of all, I want to talk about Leon Jakuki. I think I pronounced this name correctly because, he's had a very good past so far. Well, he's had a very good career so far. That's what I was meant to say. He was very highly rated at Stuttgart. Stuttgart actually featured him in their first team quite a bit, although he did make his debut in a 3-0 away loss against Borussia Mönchengladbach. And Bayern Munich really do rate him. They gave him a 3-year contract. I think it was a 4-year contract. And he ultimately made his debut in a win against Wolfsburg. So, yeah, many teams have rated him. Stuttgart have rated him. Bayern Munich has rated him. So, yeah, he has a fantastic future. So, I do reckon it is a bit of a coup should Sunderland, make the loan signing because, Sunderland are top of the table at the moment. They're doing very, very well. And I think many people have been impressed with the way they've been playing football. So, hopefully he is a forward. He can get them banging in goals again. And hopefully he can, be a fantastic asset at that club. And it is also worth noting that he is a German youth international. He is highly thought of in Germany, one of their hot prospects over there. So, Sunderland fans, I'd be very excited about this player because, he is a fantastic prospect.
Yeah, and he's definitely one who could probably replace the goals that Charlie White scored for them last year, but very much a different player. I'm really looking forward to seeing how that move pans out. Especially the keeper will have some pedigree as well, being a Bayern Munich youngster as well. Another sign that's come through today is Wigan signing St Johnstone captain and defender Jason Kerr. So Wigan continuing to splash the cash over this summer transfer window. Do you think that's a good move for Wigan, bringing in a SPL captain who's known for the success they had at St Johnstone?
Yeah, I reckon Wigan, because many people were thinking that they were going to struggle when they first, at the beginning of the season. And I think many people now are beginning to tout them as dark horses because, they do have a very good team for this level and they have made some decent signings. But Jason Kerr is another fantastic signing for them. Played for St Johnstone, made 113 appearances there. He is a defender and ultimately he is again highly rated in Scotland. He's 24 years old, so again he is young. He is a player who could see them out for a couple of years, and he is captain material as well. So he is a fantastic signing for Wigan. And I think Wigan, in my opinion, have probably had one of the best transfer windows this summer.
Yeah, they've had a cracking window, Wigan, haven't they? And they've got a lot of talent in there, and they've really started the season well. I think they'll only get better as the season goes on. These players get used to the system and Richardson's way of doing things. But going back to Jason Kerr, if the paper talk is believed, they've beaten Charlton to the signature of Kerr and by all accounts, blown Charlton out of the water for the fee. Wigan believed to have paid £600,000 for Jason Kerr. So a lot of money being thrown by Wigan there, especially considering the money they spent on Stephen Humphries early in the summer as well. So their spending is in well excess of £1 million, which is a lot for this level. And I imagine the new owners will want a return on that this season. That would be in promotion to the Championship. Not really much else in terms of other big deals. So Crewe are looking to get in Joel Valencia from Brentford on loan. Accrington Stanley have completed the loan signing of Jovan Malcolm from West Brom. Another one of the bigger deals in the division today. So Oxford have signed Fulham midfielder Ben Davis on a 2-year deal. The Fulham youngster coming in to Oxford to definitely bolster their ranks. Do you know much about Davis, Ben? And do you think it's a sign that could really do well for Oxford?
Yeah, I don't know much about him. I know that he is a Thai international. He is a very young player as well. But he is a midfielder. So hopefully he does develop very well for Oxford. But Oxford again have made a very good signing here because they've gone for a young player who could again reach the very top of the game who could, potentially develop well for them. So yeah, I mean, he is a bit of a coup really when you think about it, as he used to play for Fulham and they've gotten one of their young players. But yeah, I mean, I don't know much about him. I've never seen him play before. I know he hasn't made a single senior appearance yet in British football. So yeah, who knows how he's going to be. Hopefully he does become a good signing for them.
Yeah, definitely. I think, and then obviously the final sign I want to take a look at, say George Burkett in the live chat's kind of beat me to the punch on this one. I was saving this one for last, George, because arguably for me, I think it's probably the best piece of business on deadline day so far, and that's Harry Arter moving to Charlton on loan from Nottingham Forest. So the midfielder signed on loan for the duration of the season. Getting on in years, I think he's 30, about to turn 31. If he hasn't, no, 31, turning 32 this year. But yeah, it's a big sign, I'd say, for Charlton, that. But Ben, what do you make of the sign of Harry Arter? Do you think he can have a huge impact down at the Valley this season?
Yeah, it's quite a poignant transfer, really, as Harry Arter was a youth player at Charlton. He came through their academy and ultimately he developed there, though it never really worked out. He is a Bournemouth legend. We all know what he did at Bournemouth, and he's made a couple of loans in the Championship and did well there. So, in my opinion, this is a fantastic signing for Charlton. Hopefully, they can maybe keep hold of him. But yeah, he's 31 years old, which could be a concern. Though he's still an Irish international, they still play him in midfield. And he is a defensive midfielder. So, in my opinion, defensive midfielders do age a bit more gracefully than midfielders who do bomb up and down the middle. So, yeah, Harry Arter could be a fantastic player for Charlton, especially at this level. So, they've made one of the best transfers of the season, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think you were saying there about the age of Harry Arter. I think in terms of League One, 31 for a defensive midfielder, there's no age really. And I think Harry Arter's game will really suit League One, especially if they do operate, obviously play a central midfield, but whether they operate as a central midfielder or more defensive minded, his skill set is definitely suited to League One. I think it'll be a huge signing for Charlton this year, and that's for sure. Just one comment, we'll move on to the questions part of the show in a second. Comment from Johnny, great show as always, gents. Cheers, Johnny, as always. Really glad to have the show back at a regular time. Yeah, so I kind of alluded to it last week. I've had a busy few weeks with other commitments, and I've been trying to get the shows in as and when I was free and available for a rare hour of the week. So yeah, those commitments are now finished. So it's full steam ahead for the League One and League Two shows for the season. You'll definitely be seeing a lot of us during the season. Just one comment that's kind of made me chuckle from George. Alter as a spring chicken compared to Ben Watson. Yeah, I think Ben Watson's career definitely peaked and has never. I think it's been a downward trajectory ever since he got that goal in the FA Cup final against City. So yeah, I definitely agree with that. Harry Arter's definitely got more life in him than Ben Watson anyway. But yeah, just to move over to the questions. So thank you everyone again for getting these in on Twitter, and the live chat. Has been a couple coming that we've not covered so far, which we will definitely get covered as we go. So first question on Twitter is from Ben Morris. Here's a curveball. Which League One side are you expecting to have the best EFL Cup run, and which side are you expecting to have the best FA Cup run? Not enough clubs are up for the Cup these days, and which club would you like to see do what Bradford did in 2013? I'll come to you on that one first, Ben. So I don't know if you've got the last 32 draw in front of you for the FL Cup, but there's definitely quite a lot of League One sides still in there with definitely winnable ties heading into the next round. So is there any that are catching your eye as to who could progress?
Well, I would say AFC Wimbledon as they're playing Arsenal, but I'm probably going to go for Cheltenham. Cheltenham are a good side. They're going to be playing Preston. I reckon Cheltenham could potentially secure, a win, hopefully upset a few pundits. So yeah, I reckon Cheltenham are probably going to be one of the better teams in the EFL Cup as League One clubs go. But in the FA Cup, I'm not too sure, to be honest, because anything could happen. I'd probably go for a team like Sunderland, a team who are in form, or maybe a team like Wigan. But yeah, who knows? Anything can happen in the FA Cup. But in the EFL Cup, as I just said, I reckon Cheltenham could hopefully spring a surprise on Preston.
Yeah, let's look at a draw. Wigan play Sunderland in the next round, so one of them is guaranteed to be in the last 16. So I'll be in, if they get a winnable tie in that second round, because obviously not all the top teams are going to make it through. So we'll definitely winnable ties if one of Wigan and Sunderland are going through, and similar to Cheltenham. I know they're League Two, but Rochdale away at Burnley is another one where you can see an upset there. Burnley really struggle in the cups, and the home form has been poor, so that's another potential shock. Wickham have got a big day out at Man City, so obviously over the bar editor, writer, and just general over the bar man, Paul McGarry I assume will be at that game. I'm looking forward to watching Akinfenwa up against Ruben Diaz. That'll be an interesting battle to see. Anyway, yeah, I think just to kind of go back to what you were saying, Ben, about teams being up for the cup. I love a good cup run from a Rochdale perspective. I don't know what your thoughts on a cup run, Ben, because I know Ipswich have got a much more prestigious history than like Rochdale, for example. So I don't know what your thoughts on lower league clubs having a good cup run.
Yeah, Ipswich aren't known for doing well in the cup. We always get knocked out in the cup, and ultimately, our luck is never really there in the FA Cup. I think we got knocked out by Portsmouth last year in the FA Cup. That was a miserable game. So yeah, I mean, as an Ipswich fan, I would love a cup run, because as a team in League One, my dream is to, visit some of those big Premier League grounds, such as Man City, Man United, and just to have a day out there, really. And I think a lot of fans supporting League One clubs probably feel almost the same, because, the FA Cup is a cup for day outs, really. It is a cup for excitement, for upsets, and of course for money, because it does bring in a lot of revenue for these smaller clubs, especially clubs like Morecambe or Wickham when they play Manchester City in the EFL Cup. So yeah, I mean, I just think that the FA Cup, EFL Cup are fantastic traditions. I reckon they mean a lot more to the smaller clubs than they do to the bigger clubs, and hopefully from an Ipswich fan's perspective, we will go on a decent run this season.
Yeah, and I think especially for Ipswich fans have a younger tenure in terms of their following of the club, they won't have seen Ipswich's days in the Premier League in the early 2000s, where they were regulars for a few seasons, had some really good performances in that infamous night. It was against Inter Milan at Portman Road, so they won't be used to big cups. Well, they'll be praying for big cup ties and get your Man Uniteds and Cities, Liverpool's, Chelsea's, and whatnot to Portman Road, or the away day to the big clubs. And yeah, I think from a lower league fan perspective, a good cup run, a nice day out is always a nice remedy, especially having a bad season anyway. Kind of takes the sadness away from it. But we'll go back to the question on Twitter. But yeah, really good question, Ben. Thank you for that one. So John Fleming. So what's happened to Lincoln, Charlton, and Ipswich? We all thought they'd be leading the pack after the way they finished last season. So we've already touched on Ipswich quite a bit, so we'll focus mainly on Lincoln and Charlton. So what do you think's been the issue for those two sides, Ben?
Charlton, I just don't think they've gotten going yet. I thought they played some very good football against Crewe, so I reckon they'll be up there eventually come the end of the season. Lincoln, I don't really know what the matter with Lincoln is. I thought they were very suspect defensively the other day. I thought they were very limp and they gave away some easy goals. But yeah, I mean, again, those are two teams who I reckon will eventually climb up the table. But with Ipswich, I could probably give you a more definitive answer. I reckon our problem, as I said earlier, is simply due to the signings. We've made one too many, and it might take a while for them all to embed into the squad. We've just made another signing in Sam Morsey. Well, that is more or less going to be confirmed later on tonight, so it is more or less a new signing. So yeah, that would have been our 20th signing of the season, which is mad to think, really. That is more players than we've signed in the last 3 years. So yeah, our problem at Ipswich is rather obvious. I don't think it's going to affect us throughout the entire season, as we are probably going to improve mid-season, or maybe, who knows, in the next game. But yeah, I mean, Ipswich, Charlton and Lincoln, they're three teams that I think just haven't got them going yet.
Yeah, and sort of took out you being the Ipswich expert, I'll leave that at that. And in terms of Lincoln, I think ultimately for them it is a playoff hangover. They won't go down, but I think their playoff hangover, similar to Oxford last season, I think they will come with eventually, but I don't think it'll be enough to get top six again. Charlton, I'd say similar-ish to Ipswich, but not as much on a grand scale. But they've got a lot of players bedding in. When you look at the players they signed, there's some quality they've brought in as well. Harry Arter we've touched on, Elliot Lee from Luton, another really good signing. Charlie Kirk, really good at this level. Sean Clare, another one that's not really been talked about in terms of how good of a signing that is from Oxford. And then Craig McGilvery was the other one as well. Really solid keeper at this level, getting him over from Portsmouth. I think it'd be a very solid signing for Charlie. I think he'll do well for him this year. And James Stockley coming in from Preston as well. So plenty of good business done by Charlton. I think it'll be a case of starting slow and they'll definitely come good. Too many good players in there. And Nigel Adkins is too good of a manager at this level for that to continue. Next question is in from Dan Green. So yes, lads, been looking forward to the show since Saturday. Some funny results in these opening weekends. Do you think Donny can recover from the poor start? From what I've seen, I think it'll be at the wrong end of the table all season. And which club do you think has done the best business? So we'll focus on the Doncaster bit of that question first, Ben. So what have you made of Doncaster so far? Because they have been dreadful ever since Darren Moore left the club, haven't they?
Yeah, I agree. I thought Doncaster were absolutely abysmal last time out. I don't think they played good football as well. And I mean, I thought they were limp. I thought they were incredibly limp not to beat, or not to at least get back into the game, against the 10-man Lincoln. So yeah, Doncaster have been incredibly disappointing. But again, they are a team who, and I feel bad for saying this, but I just don't think they've got the quality in their squad. John Bostock is a good player, but age is against him, really. Time is against him. And when you look at their squad, these are a whole load of players who have been there and done that, and they probably aren't at the quality of maybe improving. Kyle Noyle, who I think has only recently joined the club. I might be wrong when saying that. He used to play for West Ham. He's been at too many clubs now. I reckon he's reached this peak. So, yeah, I mean, looking at their squad, and I feel a bit harsh for saying this, but I don't think there is much room for improvement in regards to the players as individuals. I don't think they can maybe improve much more. So, yeah, signings are needed, probably a bit late now in the transfer window to overhaul the squad. I don't think they have a lot of money available to them. So, yeah, I reckon they're going to struggle this season.
Yeah, I think another big problem as well was they didn't replace Darren Moore with, well, see, Andy Butler at the back end of last season. They made it very clear he was going to be there in the interim to the end of the season. But I think all that time they had to pick a new manager and they go with Richie Wellens. I thought personally it was a dreadful appointment. And for the time they took to pick that manager, I think it's a dreadful appointment. I think they might as well, I don't want to see it like it might be an extreme point of view, but I think appointing him when they probably could have gone for a better manager is pretty much signaling confine themselves relegation at that point.
He didn't do well. Sorry to interrupt, but he didn't do well at Salford either. He was very disappointing at Salford, and that did make the front pages. That was very well covered by the papers in regards to how bad he was there. So yeah, that is a very weird signing. He didn't do well at Swindon either. I remember.
With Swindon, he did get them promoted. But that was part of the whole points per game. I don't think many people are saying they were outright the best team in the division, and it would have been interesting to see how Swindon would have finished that season if they would have played their full 46 games. But when he was at Oldham, he was a poor manager, and I don't understand. He's one of their managers who's going to continue to get jobs in League 1 and 2 for the next few years based on a half a good season at Swindon. When there's playable, I'd rather take a punt on a young untested manager like Rochdale done with Robbie Stockdale and see somebody like Richie Wellens rock up at the club anyway. But that's my own personal point of view there. And the second part of the question from Dan Green: so which club has done the best business? I think you've already alluded to it. I think, did you say Wigan for that?
Yeah, Wigan or Charlton. I reckon their two teams have made fantastic signings this window, but I'm going to stick to Wigan. I would say Ipswich, but I reckon we've signed too many players. And when you sign too many players, I reckon that kind of defeats the whole purpose of a squad rebuild. So yeah, I'm going to stick to Wigan because I think they've surprised many people. And again, they could hopefully, and fingers crossed, get a promotion.
Yeah, the first half of the summer, I thought Ipswich was doing some cracking business, but like I said, the phrase "too many cooks spoils the broth." Sorry. But yeah, I think too many players have come in, and I think that kind of ruins their whole window really. But yeah, I'll go with Charlton. Just be a bit different in terms of rather than saying Wigan twice. I'll go with Charlton. I think they've done some great business so far over the summer. Next question. Well, it's the last question on Twitter before we move over to the live chat from Steve Timms. Are the current top two going to be in a two-horse race all season? They both are massive clubs, and as a Sunderland fan, I try not to get my hopes up, but I think we can run away with it. I don't think you'll run away with it, Steve. I think the past few seasons, I don't think any side ever runs away with League One. And I don't think the top two ever tend to run away with it. There always seems to be about 3 or 4 teams in the mix. I definitely think you and Sheffield Wednesday will be in the mix, but I don't think you'll run away with it. But I definitely expect you to be in that top 4 fight this year. But what do you think of that one, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to be a two-horse race at all, simply because of the quality of the league. You know, we have Oxford, we have Portsmouth, we haven't really mentioned yet, who have a very good defence. They're very, very solid back there. So, yeah, there are many teams, in my opinion, who can potentially climb inconsistently out the top 2. I should maybe mention Ipswich as well, as there are very high expectations at the club. But look, there are some very good teams this season in League One. Sunderland, Sheffield Wednesday, Wigan as well. You know, like teams who could potentially get promoted. So I reckon it's going to, once the season does get going properly, it's going to be a very interesting season.
Yeah, I think with League One as well, I don't think the league as a whole tends to really favour itself to, regardless whether you've got a huge fan base like Sunderland's and Sheffield Wednesday's and having the history of those clubs, that don't really tend to matter for much at this level. But yeah, them sides will definitely be up there. But yeah, I think in terms of run away with it, I think it's a bit far off the mark, and it will be interesting to see how they get on over the coming weeks and months. I did miss one question on Twitter, so this is the last Twitter question. So how much of an impact can Harry Arter make at Charlton? We've already covered that on Chris. I hope you're satisfied with that answer. And who's been the player in the team that has impressed you most so far? And can you give us your picks of player of the month and manager of the month of August? So I think the player, we can tie the player into the player of the month, but what player, team and manager have stood out so far for you, Ben?
First of all, sorry for turning off my spotlight. It was burning up a bit, so I had to turn it off. But yeah, in regards to the player of the month, I mean, I think it's a fairly interesting pick, really. There are plenty of players who you could maybe pick out on and maybe dissect. But my player of the month, for me, in my opinion, has to be James Henry. I thought he had a very good game against Lincoln. So from what I've seen of him so far, he is my player of the month. But manager of the month is probably a little more difficult, although I reckon if you look at the table, maybe Lee Johnson, based on how they are doing, and maybe Darren Moore at Sheffield Wednesday, because, you know, Darren Moore is a fantastic manager. He's always done incredibly well wherever he's gone, and he's doing well at Sheffield Wednesday, a team who many thought were going to struggle as soon as they got into League One, but who have ultimately exceeded expectations and who are, second in the table.
Yeah, I think in terms of my player of the month, mine's going to be slightly different for you. I think I'm just going to go with basically like how they've stood out in terms of stepping up to League One so far, and that's Cole Stockton at Morecambe. Already chipped in with a few goals so far. I think it's on 4 so far for the season. So yeah, I've been really impressed with how he's stepped up so far. In terms of a team that's impressed me so far, I'm going to go with Cambridge as like my team that have stood out so far. Really adjusted well, especially considering they've lost their top goal scorer who's in absolutely insane form last year. And I don't want to say single-handedly gone promoted, but you could tell he was like a linchpin in their promotion chase there. In terms of manager of the month, based on what I'm going to go with Mark Bonner of Cambridge as well. Just simply because how well they've adjusted to life in League One. I know it's 4 points less than like your Lee Johnsons and Darren Moore's clubs, but yeah, I think for how well he's got their side playing so far, I'm going to go with them. Just a few questions to cover in on the live chat before we do wrap things up for another week. If you just bear me 1 second. So first one we not covered is from Ben Morris. So which of the summer signs so far has caught your eye the most? So could it be because it's a bargain, rip-off, or total shock? So if you had to pick one player, Ben, for that one, who'd you go with?
Player for signing up the season, I reckon could either be Harry Arter. I'm going to be very, very biased as well by saying this. Maybe Wes Burns, as he's played so well so far. Bargain of the season again, Harry Arter. He's been an absolute bargain. Or the two young German players, apologies, I don't really know their names, who are potentially coming in on loan to Sunderland. So yeah.
Yeah, I was going to go with Duchaku coming at Sunderland as well. I know he's not played a game yet, but I think to get somebody with the pedigree that he's got coming into League One level, I think that's going to be a massive coup for Sunderland as the season goes on. Steve Timms, have you guys had any thoughts on who will be top scorer of the season? Some great strikers in the league this year. So who's your money on for top scorer, Ben?
Yeah, to be fair, that is a very tough question, and I'm not too sure. I'm just going to throw a few names out on players who I reckon could have good seasons. James Henry can maybe become top scorer, although I'm actually going to throw a name out there. A very good player, who we haven't actually mentioned yet, in Luke Jeffcott. Luke Jeffcott was actually a local lad where I live. He attended one of the local schools to where I live, and he's a Plymouth player through and through. He came through their academy. He played in non-league as well with Truro, and ultimately they didn't really expect him to bounce back into the picture like he did. He's been an incredible player for them, and I reckon Plymouth would be very lucky to keep hold of him next season. So yeah, Luke Jeffcott maybe, as he's been in fantastic form so far this season. I reckon if he can stay in the current form that he is currently in, he could potentially become top goal scorer.
Yeah, so there's a couple of players. I think I predicted Stephen Humphries to be in with a shout. I think that's just because it was Rochdale connections. But I think if Sunderland continue with the vein of form they've on, I think Ross Stewart will be with a shout as well, especially against the partnership going up front. I think he could be in with a shout. But Troy Parrott is another one at MK Dons. If they can sustain good run of form, he's very highly thought of at Spurs. So I think he'll have a decent shout as well. Yeah, Jeff Cott's another one, but he had a very similar start last season. He kind of fell away with regards to goal. I think the second half of the season, the goals really dried up, and that's when Plymouth really started to struggle. Last couple of questions. So one from Chris Saunders. Really good show tonight, chaps. Cheers, Chris. Who are you saying is likely to be the first manager for the Chop? So who is your pick for the first managerial casualty, then?
Richie Wellens, in my opinion, he's an easy pick. I reckon he'll struggle with Doncaster, and ultimately that could get him a sack if he's not lucky, because again, he's not a very consistent manager at all. And another name I'm going to throw out there, and it still baffles me why clubs still hire this manager. He's a good manager, don't get me wrong. He's had a fantastic career, but Simon Grayson, he's one of those managers, and I hate to use this term, but one of those managers who many associate with dinosaur football. And, he hasn't really been convincing in his last couple of jobs. So I reckon Fleetwood are going to carry on struggling. I know they're winning at the moment against the Leicester City under-21s in the Football League trophy, but that doesn't really mean a lot. I reckon Simon Grayson will get the sack eventually.
Yeah, I think Grayson was one of my picks early doors. Rich Wellens will definitely be in the mire as well there. Depending on how poorly Gillingham continue, Steve Evans could be within a shout as well. But I think David Artelt Crew, he'll be fine. Steve Cottrell, I don't want to sound like, after everything went with COVID, I think he'll be given all the time in the world. Same with Michael Appleton, he's got a lot on his plate at the minute. I think he'll be given all the time in the world to turn it round. But yeah, I think they're my main ones there. Last question in from John Fleming. What do you guys make of Saido Berahino going to Sheffield Wednesday? What do you make of that on Ben? Because it's quite a coup for this level, really.
Yeah, it's a coup, but his attitude is highly suspect. Well, many people think of Sadio Berahino, they think of a young player, but he's 28 years old. He's very close to being 29, actually. So, like, he is an old player. He is a player who hasn't really got much more of an opportunity, really, to get back into the picture. But yeah, I mean, he hasn't really done well anyway. He's gone really. Did well at West Brom initially before Tottenham became interested in him and his head turned. At Stoke, he was highly suspect. He scored 3 times in 51. At Zulte Waregem, he was absolutely awful. At Charleroi, however you pronounce that, I know they're a team in Belgium. He only scored twice in 20 appearances. So yeah, this is a player who, again, is highly suspect. He is quite old. So yeah, I reckon he's going to struggle, to be fair. He is a name. He does have a lot. I don't really know how to put this into words, but he is a high-profile name, if that makes sense. But that doesn't really account to anything, really. So yeah, I reckon he could potentially struggle.
Yeah, I think obviously it does cover the name, and I think League One is probably his level now. Obviously looked very good early doors in his career at West Brom. But yeah, he's not really kicked on. I think after that move to Spurs fell through back in 2015. I think it was 2015, like 2016. He's not been the same player. Like you said, his attitude is very questionable. You like to think Darren Moore won't take any nonsense from him. But yeah, he definitely does need an arm around the shoulder and get his career back on track. But at 28, time is running out for Berahino. But that is everything for this week. I'll double check and not receive any more comments in the live chat. Ben Morris, off topic with Cave Solokol. It was a joke on Sky Sports News. Man is clueless and has 0 contacts. Yeah, he's a bit hit and miss. So I was kind of watching it before they broke the news about Mbappe. I don't know if you saw that. He had to leave the studio because someone was trying to give him a bit of an inside scoop, which was a decent scoop, to be fair. I'll give him credit where credit's due. But yeah, he does think he's a more big time Charlie than he actually is. But yeah, sometimes he's great. Sometimes I think he's absolutely abysmal. But yeah, I can see where you're coming from with regards to that. Thankfully, he didn't cover much League One stuff anyway. Yeah, that's everything for this week. So we'll be back with the League One show next week. The League Two show will be tomorrow night now instead of Thursday night. Yeah, so we'll be back tomorrow night with the League Two show. And Charlie of One Rose Vlogs will be back with me again tomorrow to recap the latest League Two action. But in the meantime, if you want to head over to the website at www.otvfootball.net. If you're new to Over the Bar and you're not that familiar with us and you kind of stumbling across us for the first time, first question is like, where have you been all this time where we've been going? But yeah, if you're new to us, but head over to Over the Bar FB. Make sure you drop us a follow, and we'll get all the new content shared, written content, video content, and any stuff we feel like might be interested in. Whilst you're watching us on YouTube, again, if you're new to the channel, make sure you drop us a subscribe and click the bell icon so you get notified every time we go live. We're pretty consistent when we go live, but now we're settled into it. It's usually Tuesday, Wednesdays, or Thursdays for League One and League Two shows around the 8 o'clock mark. But yeah, if you come and check us out over there, and also the Bundesliga show is over there as well. And again, something I've kind of been pushing the last couple of weeks, but to kind of improve the content and upgrade the equipment and do more variety of video content, I've got a Buy Me a Coffee page to start investing in better camera vlogging equipment. So if you do want to put back in, well, if you want to contribute to the channel, I can 100% assure you that will be used for video content. Just before we do go, I'll come back to the comments. But yeah, thanks guys for everything again this week. Thank you very much again, Ben, for joining us, and we will see you all next week. And thank you very much for watching.